This is Beyond the Green Screen, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.
Hi, everyone. Royal Norman with you. It's Beyond the Green Screen, where we get to talk about weather and all kinds of stuff here on our First Alert podcast. And today, it's Christmas Angel. And we've got Lieutenant Colonel Ivan Wild with us and Marlene Klotz-Collins, who helped get this all started way back in the day. And it's exciting for me because Christmas Angel's something that, well, we look forward to here at Arizona's Family every year, and it's just a joy to be a part of. But before we talk about Angel, Ivan, tell me this. How were you attracted to Salvation Army? What got you to a point you wanted to serve with them?
Well, I grew up in the Salvation Army as my home church, a place of worship and service. I'm a third-generation Salvationist, so it's been in the family back in England. I came over from England. So growing up in the Salvation Army, I got involved in a lot of the programs and went to work at summer camp programs and on staff and kind of worked my way through there. And through a series of different events, I just really feel God called me into this full-time ministry because I saw the immediate impact that it had on people, even seeing young children's lives changed when you invest in them. And so that kind of drew me into it as a full-time ministry. So now I've been a Salvation Army officer for 32 years.
Wow.
33 years.
That's amazing. How long have you been in Phoenix?
I've been in Phoenix almost 3. In April, it'll be 3 years.
Okay, that's cool. And sitting right next to you is Marlene Klotz-Collins, who I like to call the mother of Christmas Angels. She doesn't like that so much.
Awesome.
But you helped get it started way back in the day when Channel 3 was just Channel 3. We weren't, Channel 5 and all that together. And tell us the story about what attracted you to the idea of Christmas Angel and to get it started at Channel 3.
It was, we had a marketing committee, and I serve on the Metro Phoenix Advisory Board, and there were a few of us, including Joy Carter, who was on the council at that time, and just thought, would that work? Would that idea work, to put a tree in a mall and see what would happen? And I had just started working at Channel 3 in community relations. My background is CR and media, but had just started at Channel 3, and that was my first day on the job. I went into Bill Miller and said, the Salvation Army wants to do this new program, and we want to try it. What do you think? And there was not even a blink. I mean, he said, absolutely, let's do it. And we were all in.
And we went ahead and did it. And as I recall, we had one mall, right? Christown.
We had one mall, but I think it's important to know, too, that it wasn't Christmas Angel. We called it Secret Santa.
Right. You're right.
And we did that for the first 2 years. Then we found out that was the copyrighted name, and we had to not use that anymore. And so we went to Christmas Angel. And interestingly and ironically, there was actually a Christmas Angel movement coming within the Salvation Army on the East Coast. So that was kind of in the works, but we didn't know it. And here we are, yeah. 37 years later.
And Ivan, from what I understand, the Christmas Angel program in Arizona is, don't want to use the word most successful, but it's very well known around the United States. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really kind of set the pace, kind of set the bar, and even, not just because Marlene's here, but yeah, I'm going to say it's the best in the country on many aspects. I think it's the community engagement, how this station here has helped out and how Marlene has helped out, the board. So yeah, it's tremendously successful. And a lot of others have looked at how we've done it here in Phoenix, and it's really just grown across the United States, but more specifically across the western United States.
Yeah, and I've seen, too, how you guys have grown the efficiencies because it takes a lot of volunteers, takes a lot of Salvation Army people to get this thing going, but every year it seems to get a little bit more efficient, and that's a good thing, isn't it?
It's a good thing to keep up the pace, the amount of people that we serve, and it seems like every year there are more people in need, and so they come to us with that. But the efficiencies are there. We trial and error. What can we do better next year, and how can we become more efficient? How can we stretch the dollar? How can we make sure that people are being served? So there's a huge intake process. The biggest thing that we want to make mention is that the toy that is purchased for that child from the tree, when you take that tag, goes to that specific child. Now it doesn't sound like much, but it's a huge logistical thing when you talk about, tens of thousands of toys.
Yes, and we've followed that process where we've picked out a few toys for some random kids, and we've followed them through the process, and we've seen them get handed off to the parents. And it works.
It does work. Somehow it works. I can't do the logistics of it. I'm out there, doing my part, but I leave it up to the experts.
So I want to ask you this before I get back to Mar. Christmas Angel, people may be listening to this in July or April or August or whenever. Christmas Angel's an all-year thing because right now, as we record this, we're trying to get folks to bring angel gifts in. But first of all, you have to find people who need this help. And how does that process work?
We have a lot of people that already come to the Salvation Army for help throughout the year. So that's one way. We also let schools know if they come across any families that might be in need. So there's just a wide network of referrals that bring people to our various offices across the valley and across the state. So that's primarily the biggest way that people come to us in need is by word of mouth and referrals through different organizations and agencies kind of pointing them to the Salvation Army.
So if a person's listening and say it's April or whatever, March of 2024, 2025, whenever, and they know a family or they know some children that need some help, would you say just call you guys and you'll connect them?
Yeah, that's the easiest way. Just call the local Salvation Army or even have that family call the local Salvation Army. One thing we want to make sure, though, is that the family that's in need of help are ones that are in need of help. So we won't do it, say for this family, unless that family comes to us so that we can go through all the checks and balances and make sure that the resources that we have can be spread across a huge amount of people.
It is a huge amount. Marlene. Yes.
I just want to add
You
one
don't
more
have to
thing
raise your hand. You could just kick in with us guys. You know that.
Because I feel so strongly about this, and we were talking about the integrity of the program.
Yeah.
We help about 50,000 children every year.
Right.
We wouldn't tell this, but we know the day and the hour that those families are assigned to come and pick up their toys. That, to me, is a level of integrity that, as a volunteer, as a supporter, as a donor, whatever you bring to the table, to know that that level exists, I think is just amazing.
It is amazing, and it's amazing that there is a trail that if somebody like I said, we have put items in, and we've watched them go through the process, and it's amazing that it works, and it works 50,000 times a year each year. Speak to that though, Marlene. First year, how many kids did we help out?
Thank you for asking. The first year at Christown, we did 3,200 children.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know what? It's hard to even, for me anyway, to take my brain back to 37 years. But even at that point, it was hard for the Salvation Army to be assured, I think I'm right, that we would have enough new toys for kids. I mean, it was a struggle.
It was a struggle. And I can remember we did lives almost every night at Christown. And I can remember you and I and a photographer and Rex and hanging out just on Thanksgiving night, even promoting it, because we didn't know what to expect that first year, and we just wanted to give it our all.
Yeah, we launched it. And the Army was so excited because prior to the start of Christmas Angel, it was even more difficult to get those toys and bring them to the kids. And
I think and I was a Salvation Army officer in the 93 was my first appointment, and so I got the benefit of it having been in existence for a few years.
Right.
We did the Angel Tags. This is in Berkeley, California. And it was huge because the only other way that you can do it is to do like a toy drive, which is fine, and some schools would do it and some places would do it, but you didn't know everything that you got. Sometimes people would bring used toys, and they really wanted to, and we don't do used toys for the children that get on the tag.
Right.
And the other thing that we noticed is that when you have a family, say 3 or 4 children, you want to make sure that those 3 or 4 children kind of get the same types of value of those toys. And when you did just a regular toy drive, it was so hard to match it up, and then you'd find yourself short.
Right.
And so that's why the Angel program just makes the difference.
So I say we, the Salvation Army, Arizona's family, because it's really the folks out there around the state of Arizona that bring in enough toys for 50,000 kids, which is hundreds of thousands of toys. It's just not 50,000 toys. But it wasn't always that way, as we talked about. And there were years where we got scares, Marlene, weren't there?
Very nervous, yes. An officer here who went on, by the way, to become the national commander of the Salvation Army. I can remember on 2 different years, and I worked at Channel 3 at the time, he called me and said, we're running out of toys.
Yeah.
We're not going to make it. And the way that the distribution works is that once you run out of toys at one age group, you have to stop distribution because you can't start, messing up with the families.
Right.
So I can remember going over at the Army early in the mornings and trying to figure out what we were going to do. And Channel 3 was all over it. I mean, we would go out and do practically day-long telethons to make sure that we had those toys. So it's really a credit to the commitment that the station made to help make that happen. But absolutely, it has not been a cakewalk, everywhere.
Well, and I don't know if you want to share this story, and you don't have to use any names if you don't want to, but there was a time when you went to our bosses at Channel 3 and really needed some help, and they stepped up big time, didn't they?
They did. And it was...
If you don't want to share it, that's fine.
No, I can absolutely share it.
Okay.
And we also had the best friend of one of our bosses stepped up, and to this day they do that. So it's not unusual. As a matter of fact, I call those same people every year to ask them, usually because we're running out of something. Yeah. And they'll just say, where can I bring the check? Yeah,
and they get it done. That's
for
sure.
They do.
And it's good that there's people like that out there. Ivan, so tell me about the impact for families and kids that you've seen over the year, not just with Christmas Angel, but with Salvation Army in general. Is it something that you see on a day-to-day basis almost?
Yeah, I think it's what really kind of keeps me going, besides my calling, but is the fact that knowing that you have a direct impact in the lives of individuals and just seeing the smiles on the children's faces or the parents. So many stories. I was sitting down actually doing an interview like this with a TV station, and the host was telling me before we went on the air that she grew up, didn't realize that she was poor, because every year she had Christmas gifts. And it wasn't until later on in her life, in her late teens, that she realized that those gifts were actually coming from the Salvation Army. But the parents took them, wrapped them, and and it was from Santa and so forth. And so just stories like that is just amazing.
Yeah, and I can't even believe the number of people who have come up to me and said, 20 years ago, I got presents through Angel. And kind of the same story. I didn't know that my parents didn't have the money for those. And then they're giving back, and they're showing their kids how to give back. It really is kind of a cool story, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it when families go shopping together because they were helped, and now they're teaching their children, and they do it as a family, a tradition. Usually the age of the child will take that age of the angel tag and then, go shopping together and then bring the toys in. So it's a legacy that is started.
And it's amazing that even though the toys are still being collected, they start getting distributed earlier, obviously weeks ahead of Christmas. And Marlene, you're a big part of that over at the warehouse. You get that organized. So tell me how that works if people are interested in maybe volunteering for a warehouse night at Salvation Army to help get those presents distributed.
Well, I actually schedule our warehouse visitors in July.
Oh, gosh.
So we've been...
So stop calling her.
Yeah, right. Right now I'm booked, but we also have openings during the day.
Yeah, okay.
And if someone has interest to do that in the evenings, just remember July is a magic date for that.
Okay.
And, if I could just go back to what we were talking about a second ago. On the other end, we're talking about the families who are receiving and what a generational thing it is and how special it is. As a volunteer and a person out there wanting to do something, what a blessing it is to have an organization, and I'm not saying it because Colonel's here, but like the Salvation Army that you can trust, and with, again, that level of integrity and everything you're looking for. When I've always called the Salvation Army one-stop shopping. You name whatever the need, and they find a way. If they don't already have existing programs, they will find a way to help. And I just think that we can never say that too often as volunteers and supporters. What a joy it is to have a conduit to the community that we want to serve, like the Salvation Army.
I agree, and the Salvation Army does so much more, obviously, than Christmas Angel. One of my good friends is on one of your travel teams that goes to disaster areas, has been to Maui where they had the devastating fires, and so you do answer needs. When someone calls, you answer.
Oh, definitely. And we try to make sure, that's part of our mission, to meet human needs without discrimination. So whatever that need is, however we can help and assist. But even for the fires in Maui, there was teams from here, from Arizona, that went. So when people are supporting the local Salvation Army, it's also help supporting all that we do across the globe, really.
So we can do this online, azfamily.com. We can do it online at the Salvation Army website for the Phoenix Salvation Army website. But it's a lot more fun to do it in person, isn't it, Mar?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's totally more fun.
Talk us through the process.
Oh, my gosh. At the tree, you just go to the mall, and whatever mall is close. We're at like 15 malls. We're all over town, all over the state, actually. And there are Christmas angel trees, and there are people at the tables, volunteers, who are very happy to help you select. It's interesting why some people select the angels that they do. They might have a child that has passed away, and they'll look for that age. They might have a grandchild on the other side of the country that they won't be able to see that, and they're buying for that. There are so many pieces that go into that, but you get to be part of that. When you're volunteering at the angel trees, and we need help. We need volunteers to help us. So that's a good thing to remember.
There you go.
We do need that, but you just select the tag. They will check it out. We know who you are. We know how to reach you, and we ask that you bring it back by a certain date.
Yes.
And then, depending on the malls are assigned, if you will, to the different corps, the different units of operation. So we don't have just a single distribution day in a single location. They're all over the valley to be as convenient as we can for our shoppers and for the families. Yeah. And then they take it off. They shop. They bring the gift right back, and then the Army takes it to the respective distribution center.
And I always find that's, at least for me, the easiest thing to do is pick the tags, go run around the mall, bring them right back that day, kind of make a day or an afternoon of it, because it gets it I don't know, it just kind of makes it special, doesn't it?
It does. And I think, it just adds to it, because any time that you give to someone else, it really produces within you a lot of joy and happiness. And I mean, we really need a lot more of that, into today's world. But making an afternoon of it, when you go in shopping, it doesn't take that much more to buy that one extra gift. And we just encourage people to, when they take the angel, when they shop, is to bring it right back.
Right.
And of course, if you take it and you're running late and you got to do it another day, that's fine. But it helps us to get it to the right person at the right time. So getting it right back, it really helps us.
Yeah, it keeps the wheels moving.
Yeah. If not, I got to call Marlene and say, how do we fix this?
Yeah.
Well, I just have a fun story that I will always remember this. I was working at the warehouse one night. We were right in the middle of our season, and I had a call come in. This gal had called the desk, and they gave her my number. She and her family had just moved here from South Africa the year before. And she created her own Christmas gift for her parents called ADAD, a dime a day. And for that whole year, she had saved a dime a day in a little butter carton with a hole on top of it. And for Christmas, she gave her parents that $36.50 to go out and support Christmas Angel. So, of course, we were at her house we met her at PV Mall the next day, and we shot a story with her. And I would love to find her. I mean, think about that. That's probably been 20 years ago. And she started it. She got her little brother doing it, and then her parents were doing it. It was so easy.
Paradise Valley Mall, too, was one of the great malls for Christmas Angel. And part of it was the woman who runs it, the volunteer. I remember she always had her index list, and she'd make her calls and everything like that. And I think she's still down at Arizona Mills. Yeah.
Marina Lacey.
Yes, she does a great job.
Everyone loves Marina Lacey. Well, you know what? When Rex and I got married, his brother and sister-in-law stepped right up. They married into the Army, too. And that year, they started volunteering with Marina at PV Mall. Yeah. And they did it until the mall closed.
She is one of the most organized persons I've ever run into. Yeah. And she keeps it clicking down at Arizona Mills, even though I miss Paradise Valley so much. That was such a special place to do Angel, that's for sure. So this year, as we're going through Angel, it seems like, Ivan, it's going to be an okay year, but can you tell us how things are progressing and, in terms of the numbers of presents that are coming in and that kind of thing? Just generally speaking.
Yeah. I mean, we're just now starting to pick up the toys. It seems a little slow. I don't know if it's every year it seems slow or I get more nervous, but it's a little slow. Yeah. But we already have seen for those who have signed up, about a 10 to 12% increase over last year. Oh. So with that, we need to then, get more toys. So, by next week, we'll start seeing the trucks start filling up. I'm confident this community has never let us down, and they've stepped up when needed. So I'm very confident in all that. But at the beginning, they start trickling in, and you see the big warehouse, you see the numbers, and you're like, how is this going to work? You've been out there,
Yes.
right? You've seen all those
Yes.
shelves
Yes.
empty
Yes.
in the day, and then, they get filled up at night. And you're
Yeah.
like, how is this going to come together? But it does.
Well, if I may tell a story, it was the year of COVID, 2020, and we were hurting because folks weren't going to the mall. We were doing the Christmas Angel, and just nobody was going out, and it, very understandably so. And I can remember going to the warehouse. We had a warehouse night, which usually occurs a couple of weeks or a week and a half before the end of the Angel program, and walked in and was like, oh my, because these areas where presents are stacked for different days was virtually empty. And it was like, what is going to happen? And I don't know who came up with the idea. I really don't. But somehow it got pitched that let's try on one day next week, and it was at Paradise Valley Mall. Let's just be outside and let's have a drive up.
Good.
And we did it for Good Morning Arizona. We did it all day long. We did it for Good Evening Arizona. And my goodness gracious, we had been so far behind. Again, I keep saying we, but the program had been so far behind. And in that one day, Arizonans showed up en masse at PV Mall, and it was wonderful. It was just wonderful. I didn't believe it was happening, and it was happening. And the lines were out into the corridors of the PV Mall access areas, and people were just coming by to drop off toys. They wanted to do it, but it was a hard year to do it.
Yeah.
But we made it anyway. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. But you know what? It speaks to this community. I mean, it's filled with amazing, generous people.
Amazing people, for sure. All right. Last words about Christmas Angel. Ivan, tell us how people can get involved and sort of the timetable. And by the way, folks, if you're listening to this after the holidays, the timetable's about the same every year. So let us know how the timetable goes for the rest of this year.
Yeah, for the rest of this year, you could still volunteer, even if it's late in the year. Contact the local Salvation Army. They're always looking for volunteers to ring kettles. We didn't talk about that. I know we're talking more about Angel Tree, but that's a big need. And then to also volunteer at the tables to receive those toys. If you want to get more involved in the warehouse, one area to do that is if you do it as a group, like if you have a business, some kind of company or family, you want to do it as a group, that's probably the best way. Then you contact the Salvation Army early, August, August to September. So those are some ways to do that. Also, I would encourage, one quick story is we have one business, and they want to be not announced, but they take 1,500 Angel tags, and as soon as we get the names, they come right away to pick those up, so that gives their company a chance to go all shopping, and then they come in and bring them. And so there's just many different ways that people can get involved even throughout the year, and they kind of do a whole Christmas party around that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of companies that do that. I've had them come in, but tell me about the kettles and bell ringing, because you mentioned that and I forgot to. So you can always volunteer for that.
You could always volunteer for that. Again, go to the local Salvation Army website. You can sign up. Usually we ask for 2-hour shifts. It could be your family, 2 or 3 people ringing the bell for 2 hours. On average, if you stand for about an hour, it collects about $80. Of course, if you want to encourage your family to come and outdo the next kettle, we're fine with that. We love competition. Yeah. And so that raises, we're hoping to raise $2.3 million across Arizona, and that goes to help us with all our Salvation Army programs, not just Christmas, but it really helps us throughout the year to do all the services that you've talked about. So again, we're always looking for volunteers at the Christmas Kettle.
All right, Mar, I'm going to end with just taking you back to the 1980s and that little TV station, Channel 3, owned by Del and Jewel Lewis. And we started this Christmas Angel thing. Did you even ever in the back of your mind have a hint that it would be doing what it's doing today?
No.
No.
You know better than to ask me.
I'm sorry.
No, I didn't. And I kind of go back to what I said a little while ago, to see it now, 37
It's amazing,
years
isn't
later.
it? Yeah. Well, and you're okay with me calling you the mama of the Christmas Angel, aren't you?
Yeah, but there were other people involved too.
Yeah, well, I know that, but
yes.
to us, you
Sure.
were our Arizona family
I'm honored.
mom.
I am honored.
Yeah, and the program has just continued to be very, very successful because of your efforts and because of the Salvation Army's efforts. And I just want to thank you guys for all you do all year round. I know both of you pretty well, and they're good eggs right here, these two.
And we love the Arizona family. We thank you for what you've done, what Marlene has done through this station and to the Salvation Army. And I can't say it enough. We cannot do the things that we do without the support of people in the community, people who volunteer, come and sit on our advisory board, such as Marlene, who comes up with great ideas and helps us to implement them, and there's people like yourself willing to come out and do it live and get that exposure. So to you, I want to say a big thank you, because we cannot accomplish this mission without the help of others.
Well, I appreciate that. I
Absolutely.
appreciate that. So we're going to finish up here on Beyond the Green Screen. And I just want to say, this is why I love Christmas Angel, because I get to say to folks, all right, folks, come on and earn your wings.
I love it.
Thank you, Royal.
Thank you so much
Thanks,
for having
guys.
us.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Arizona's family.
This is Beyond the Green Screen, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.